The KwaZulu-Natal government is said to be receiving extra funds to assist flood-hit areas after the province was declared a state of disaster. I'm joined now by the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, to speak to us about the role of Treasury. Minister, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time on this Good Friday. I mean, the scale and the magnitude of the devastation of this week's floods in KwaZulu-Natal is becoming clearer and clearer every single day, everywhere you look. In addition to the lives that have been lost and the livelihoods, your department will be tasked, of course, in mobilizing whatever financial resources will be needed in this state of disaster to help KwaZulu-Natal to recover, but also its devastation has an impact on the rest of the country's economy.
Yes, thank you, Dan. I mean, the relief side, I mean, I said in the morning that there are two phases to the disaster process. The first one is emergency relief, which is taking place. You can see ministers are looking at that, different portfolios, what is happening to water, what is happening to houses, can there be temporal accommodation and so on. Those is what is called the emergency relief. And that phase, we've got different, I mean, the infrastructure is available in different departments. I mean, the money is available in different departmental budgets. We normally budget for the infrastructure for the disaster, in those departments. So that's the first phase. The second phase is going to be when we do what is called recover and repair. So that's going to require a significant amount from Treasury in the probably from the contingency reserve. That then at the moment is difficult to quantify until some work has been done to quantify what is the extent of the damage and therefore how much will the recovery and repair exercise cost.
Yes, that's going to take a bit of time. If we can just talk first then about the emergency relief. You do say that there is disaster funds. There are disaster funds that are available in the different departments of government. Then they're going to be pooled together. That's what I'm assuming you are saying right now. To what amount do you think you'll be able to mobilize the various departments will put together into this emergency relief fund?
As I looked at it yesterday. It was a minimum of R1 billion. There are quite some small amounts scattered all over the place, which we'll look into. But the minimum will be R1 billion.
So it's at least 1 billion. And that will be then released individually by the departments, or are you foreseeing a situation where there will be one fund into which everybody must chip in?
As you know, a government budget is allocated when Parliament votes on a budget. It gives their vote numbers, which are a proxy for departments. So the amounts are attached via those departments. Those departments will probably be starting from Friday. We'll receive some few requests, which I think the money will flow to those respective departments by Tuesday.
Okay, and those are provincial departments?
No, it's national departments.
Okay, national departments. Now, I mean, you delivered your budget in February. You had a particular outlook, and now for recovery, you're going to have now to see how much. I mean, if you look at the roads and the bridges and the rail and all kinds of and human settlements that have been damaged, facilities in the healthcare sector, schools. We have at least 500 schools that have been badly damaged, and we're still counting. If you look at that, I mean, how will that impact your planning in terms of what you had already thought you might be doing with the money? Do you foresee a situation where you'll have to re-prioritize?
The Act provides for what it calls unforeseen and unavoidable circumstances. This is one of those cases where we're confronted with what is called unforeseen and unavoidable. The implications are that we may have to reprioritize the budget if the amount exceeds the contingency reserve.
So, because you can't quantify them, that contingency reserves, do they have a limit?
It has a limit. There's amount budgeted for, which is in the contingency reserve. We have got a transparent budget process. Everybody knows the numbers. So that amount is known. So if the exercise now, which is taking place, but doing an assessment of the amount exceeds that amount, we'll have to reprioritize.
Yes, I mean, I've heard the word billions of rands being mentioned by various government officials as they look at the devastation. Would you have any concerns at this stage, Minister, about the likely pressure that might come on the Treasury purses as these amounts begin to come in, as your colleagues begin to share with you as National Treasury the scale of the disaster?
I would use the word concern because the implications would be that I'm not touched by these developments and the loss of life and disruption to people's lives. I would say, yes, it may have an impact on the budget, but that's what the taxpayers' money is used for, is to safeguard the interest of the South African citizens, including the vulnerable.
Yes, I mean, would you have to make some sacrifices and cut some departmental budgets for the second phase? I'm talking about the second phase now.
It's too early to say that. It's too early to say that. People may say something is in billions, only to find is 1 billion. It's too early to say that. I'm not going to say we'll be cutting budgets. What we can say at the moment, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that the funding is available.
Yes, in doing whatever it takes that the funding is available, will you be bearing in mind how to mitigate against or how to promote or economic activity? Because, I mean, we saw the port, I mean, Transnet, it's a major parastatal in terms of our economic activity.
Yeah, look, I'm told that the Minister of Public Enterprise and the CEO of Transnet are down there as we speak, leading a delegation which is doing the assessment.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to use the word concern again. I mean, you are National Treasury. Of course, the funds can be limited. Would you see a situation where we might have to borrow or access some international funds of sorts? I just saw the United Nations in South Africa 2 days ago issuing a statement in solidarity with South Africa because of these floods, calling not just on private sector, on the non-governmental sector, but also on the international community to assist the victims of the flood. Would you be knocking, would you see the country having to knock on some international doors?
Obviously, we'll interact with the international donor agencies, we'll interact with international institutions that provide concessional funding. There will be a call on fellow South Africans to do what they did when we started with coronavirus pandemic, and which led to the formation of the Solidarity Fund. So even touched South Africans. Yesterday, I watched the Mayor of Cape Town organizing Cape Townians and mobilizing them to support. So which I thought is an encouraging sign of putting our differences aside and rise to the challenge we're facing as a nation.
Yes, a short while ago I interviewed a manager from ShopRite who are, for example, doing their bit in terms of food supplies and feeding people in the current phase, and they are committing to give food parcels going forward. Finally, Minister, what would your message be to South Africans? The President the other day telling people in Tuzuma that we need to work together in order of helping the people who've been affected directly, but also in the rebuilding process that we're all facing now ahead of us.
First and foremost is to extend my support and to the people of KwaZulu-Natal and say we are with them and we will support them in whatever way it takes to relieve the plight. And also to fellow South Africans, as a nation, we must be guided by our culture, which all of us calls Ubuntu. This is the time when that call becomes necessary, when all of us put aside our differences and mobilize resources in support of the people who are facing this challenge in KwaZulu-Natal. Thank you.
Thank you to that's Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana this hour here on Today on eNCA, DSTV Channel 43.